right, so we brought it back to investing in America. Now we're going to bring it down to our hometown here and recognize Miami as a global hub for business. It's not just any hometown, it is literally the global hub for business now. And so welcome to the stage, Michaeljohn Green, aka MJ, at the Miami Downtown Development Authority, a great partner of the Economic Club of Miami. And also, when he speaks, he's going to talk a little bit at some point about their incentive program. So if you are not yet located here, especially if you have a business, pay attention to MJ because he's got some opportunities for you. If you are located here, but you got some friends that you want to relocate here, you might want to inform them about some of the great programs the Miami Downtown Development Authority has. Speaking of which, Jeff Maxon is here from Opalvest. And he is one of those businesses that has opened some offices here in Miami. And then we've got from the U, Dr. Noah Williams, who how's the basketball team doing? I haven't been paying attention, but well, he's going to tell us how Miami's doing. How about that's the most important thing? So he's a professor of economics at the U. So I'll let MJ take it away.
Awesome, thank you so much. Really excited about this conversation. So, as Francisco mentioned, my name is MJ Green. I'm the Chief of Economic Development and Strategy for the Miami DDA. The Miami DDA is a quasi-governmental entity really charged to spur economic development through Brickell, downtown, the Arts District, and a little bit of Edgewater. I'm excited about this conversation because I think we've got two great guys up here to really talk about why Miami. I think that we are all here, and from some folks from the last panel and the previous panels, you know, Miami has received unprecedented growth. And so we want to talk a little bit about that, a little bit about how the DDA supports those companies, but why people are choosing Miami and what makes Miami special. And so I think my first question, you know, I'd like to kick it off to Jeff, and you know, if you could tell us a little bit about Opalvest, but what I'll say is, you know, we're very excited to have Opalvest here. Financial services continues to grow by leaps and bounds in Miami, and we're really excited about what you guys are bringing to the table. So Jeff, if you could tell us a little bit about Opalvest.
Absolutely, thanks MJ. First and foremost, a big thank you to the Miami DDA and all that MJ and his team is doing for startups, early stage companies, and really growth in this district. We're very fortunate over at Opalvest to be recipients of a grant to move our offices from New York down to Miami. We anticipate bringing close to a dozen new financial professionals with us, a combination of local hires and some new transplants, myself being one of those. Opalvest is really capitalizing on a lot of what we've heard earlier, which is to democratize the world of alternative investments. Giving access to the smaller and up-and-coming new wealth to be able to invest similar to the ultra-wealthy. We are providing access to many of these alternative investments and private funds, be them hedge funds, private credit funds, venture capital funds. We're making those funds available to individuals, accredited investors, qualified investors, all at a fraction of traditional investments. So instead of needing $1 million positions in order to participate, we've broken that down into bite-sized pieces of $25,000. Really democratizing the world of alts and making it accessible not only to the ultra-wealthy, but to the up-and-coming individuals.
That's my favorite quote. On their website, the first thing that you'll see is it says, you know, Opalvest supports the emergently wealthy in becoming the ultra wealthy. And when I think about Miami a lot, I think about some of the demographics, right? We're putting out some demographic studies. And one of the things that you see downtown is that you have the Aston Martin building, you have the Waldorf Astoria. I would argue that the individuals that live in there are closer to the ultra wealthy side. But then if you go a few blocks back, you really have these younger, under 45, emerging wealth that is here in Miami, all working around each other, right? Most people in the average age in the Aston Martin building is closer to 70 than not. I think, Noah, can you talk a little bit about maybe the demographics and how they've changed in Miami over the, let's say, the past 10, 15 years? I think, you know, finance is always about not only looking forward, but also taking some analysis on what's happened in the past and how that affects the future.
Sure, thank you. Yeah, so I think the takeaway, which everybody's still swept up in, is the pandemic boom in Miami. I mean, what we saw from 2020 to 2023 is essentially unprecedented, particularly for this area and really around the country. I mean, if you look from 2020 to 2023, average annual growth in the Miami MSA was 7%, right? So think about 7% compounded for 4 years. Nationwide, it was like less than 3% during that same period. So you're looking at double the rate of growth. We saw a huge inflow of population, including myself. I came in 2022. And one of the things which Governor Kugler highlighted in her address was the entrepreneurial character of the city and of the MSA broadly. I should say I ran a policy center at University of Wisconsin. I dealt a lot with legacy manufacturers. Their biggest issue was everybody's leaving the state, right? Population was growing older, population was going down, they couldn't find anybody. Come here, it's completely the opposite. Governor Kugler mentioned that the startups, I think we were like 6th in new business creation. If you actually look on a per capita basis, Miami's number 1. So out of every 1,000 people in the Miami MSA, there will be 55 new businesses. I mean, it's just incredible. Again, this is a whole, new businesses runs the gamut, right? We talked a lot about startups, but really the prototypical new business is the guy with the truck. Right, so don't just think about venture capital and so on. We're thinking about a lot of very small businesses, people starting their own businesses, and so on. But we have seen a tremendous growth in sort of venture capital, which we'll hear a little bit more about later on as well.
And I think one of the things that always excited me about Miami, and I've worked and started multiple CDFIs that lend money to minority entrepreneurs, the fertile ground that was built in Miami for entrepreneurship is partly done at the state level, but it's also completely and really led by immigrants coming here from different countries and being entrepreneurial. As the tide has changed, that's made an opportunity for other businesses to come here and be able to what you say, feel the capitalism when you walk outside the door. And I'm really interested, Jeff, you guys are moving from New York, Connecticut, which has typically been kind of a hub for financial services. What excites you and what do you see down here in Miami?
It's a great question, MJ. One of the things that has attracted us is a combination of the talent and the pull of a lot of the other financial professionals from the Northeast, a lot of the asset managers opening up offices here, from the Miami up to the Palm Beach area, really making this, if not the new hub, really close to it. There's as much powerful finance, fintech, alternatives down right here in this region that there was a no-brainer to us. The level of talent base to hire, along with our customer base, both on the alternative manager side and on the wealth manager side, who are part of our distribution channel, they're all based here. So it was almost a no-brainer.
And there's only more of that to come. Some of the folks that I happen to not see in the room, whether you guys know, is that there's a trading floor opening up in Wynwood, MIEX. And yesterday, MIEX passed the size of the NYSE. And so, that's a huge feather in Miami's cap. And in the future, there will be a Bloomberg TV show shot from that trading floor. And every day, all the folks that, like myself, have spent their careers working in finance, Bloomberg is pretty huge. And every day they will be saying, reporting live from Miami. And I think that has a huge impact on the future. And so, I think two things that I would love, Nora, for you to touch on a little bit. I think Jeff kind of mentioned the talent, right? The talent that you see here, but also what are some of the future trends that I think are trailing in the right direction for us to continue to be excited about this upswing in growth?
Yeah, one of the things that I've seen early on, and Professor can probably attest to it, is a lot of youth is staying here, and a lot of educated youth. That's attractive to a young, growing company that's looking to help develop staff. And let's be honest, when you can hire people who are young and growing and ambitious, our rates are going to come down a little bit, but we're gonna get hungry people. And you're not seeing that same talent base in New York. You're seeing a little bit more of that spoiled brat that was talked about, not wanting to work. We're seeing difference here. I'm having resumes inflow to us that really show a lot of drive, show a lot of education, and a lot of commitment to this area. A lot of students who are Florida-based staying here, moving here, and really growing. Pretty excited for what that talent looks like.
Yeah. No, did you want to throw anything in there on top of that?
Yeah, so let me just say, a lot of founders and new businesses here, if you need talent, we're doing our best at the university, so get in touch with me. One thing I wanted to mention as well, and I think MJ's a good part of this, and we heard about some of it on the panel last time. When you're think about what are businesses looking at when you're starting a new business, or investors looking to invest in an area. You're looking for stability, and you're looking for policy, and you're looking for a cooperative relationship. Again, that's the FT had a ranking of global business, or best cities in the U.S. for global investment. 2022, Miami was tops in the U.S. because of those factors. 2024 slipped a little bit because the cost of living has gone up. So I think that's one perhaps drawback of all of this growth, and again, something which has come up repeatedly today, as well as maybe some of the infrastructure and building is lagging behind. But on the whole, it's in some sense, it's a good problem to have that so many people want to live here.
Sure.
No, it's very expensive to move down here, even from New York.
Hopefully, I think that we're working on that. I think the only thing I can do to say about that is encourage people, and especially the new folks that have come down here, to vote and to become active. But it kind of is something I don't think that to give the politicians some credit, where I would rarely ever do that. I don't think that they would have been able to guess that was going to happen, right? And typically, most places, infrastructure and affordable housing trails far behind. And I think that our leadership is trying to do the best that we can to be able to support that. But there are some, infrastructure across America needs a host of different improvements, and we're really looking to do that. I think on the startup side, you've been a part of a ton of different companies, Jeff. Maybe switching it up a little bit, can we just talk about, one, where exactly is Opalvest right now in their journey? And then how do you feel like where you are in your journey aligns with Miami and the startup ecosystem that is here?
Yeah, so Opalvest we're actually in the middle of a capital raise right now, mostly a strategic raise with strategic partners as we look to launch and bring our products to the marketplace. We're fully built, ready to deploy. At this current time, we're building out a combination of our distribution channels, along with building our product and our diversification of our product that will be offered, the product being the various funds, distribution being our partners, the RIAs, and mostly the financial advisors that will be pushing. The rest of the question was where are we?
Where you are.
Where,
how does that
and
align?
why Miami?
Yeah.
Look, Miami has been a hotbed for us. Most of our partners have been strategic partners. The vibrant financial community down here, those both within the alternative investment sector and also within the early stage financing and investing, has been really great. We are much more of a global product, and one of the reasons that Miami is attractive is exactly that. This is now a global hub.
Sure.
And for us, our product really is global, right? Our funds are across the nation, but a lot of our professionals are here. And that's really what drives this equation.
The panel that I hosted last year, a lot of that conversation was a little bit about Miami and Latin America, but my real push is that Miami is no longer just the hub of Latin America. Miami is a global business hub. And so Noah, if you could kind of talk about, I guess it's, two questions again, a little bit about the growth of the startup ecosystem here, and then how is that led or is that connected to it all, Miami being really this global business hub? I'm inundated really now at the moment with more companies from Europe and other places as opposed to Latin America that are really looking to come and set up shop here.
Yeah, thanks. So one other thing which I wanted to mention, because there's been a lot of focus on kind of finance for obvious reasons and tech. The other major contributor to Miami's growth is the port, right?
Huge, yes.
It's actually the number 8 city in the U.S. in terms of volume of exports. So think of, there's a lot of real services which go on here as well. I mean, and I know a lot of, we do a lot at the university with shipping lines and so on, who are major employers here. In terms of the startup ecosystem, again, we'll hear a little bit more about this later on, but the VC market, is slow moving. Obviously, San Francisco areas where a lot of it is. It's kind of slowly moved. Miami has seen tremendous gains in this area, though. PitchBook ranked Miami as number 18 in the world for startup investment. In 2023, $21 billion in deals and $33 billion in funds raised. So again, all of this is, I think that's up about 20% over the past couple of years. So. Again, we've seen sort of growth in small business. We've seen growth in startups. Again, some of that takes a while to get going, but I think it's really taking hold now.
I think you bring up a good point. To focus out a little bit, right? Capital is integral to every single part of business. One of the things that I'm most excited about, and you kind of mentioned, there is the seaport, but the cruise port is the #1 cruise port in the United States. The airport is the #1 cargo airport in the United States. If you buy green beans in all of America, it's a 90% chance that it came from Homestead. If you buy a succulent off of Amazon, it's a 98% chance it came from Homestead. Noah, this economy that we have here in Miami-Dade County, I truly think is bar none and one of the most unique in the United States. Where else can you have all the fun and sun in South Beach and then take a 45-minute drive and be able to buy rare fruit that they don't even sell in America? They ship it all to China or Japan. Where else can you really do that? 500,000 people get off cruise ships every single month downtown. And so could you just talk a little bit about the overall robustness? Because one of the things that I'm excited about in the future is that robustness, that diversity, when that meets all of the capital and the opportunities for capital, like Jeff is trying to bring, meets that here, I think that even leads to, throwing more gasoline on the fire that we already have.
No, that's true. And I think that's something we've seen kind of around the country. If you look at developing cities where they sort of get started in one area, but if they're to truly have robust development, you need kind of growth. You can't be concentrated. You can't put all your eggs in one basket, right? You need to diversify. So the fact that we have not just kind of finance, obviously tourism, real estate, but some of this other real investment is really important for the future.
And so I think now I'm going to take a little bit of a U-turn, or I'm a big basketball fan, a bit of a crossover. And I do want to talk about, because we do have students in the audience, when I think about my career, I never even knew that the job that I had necessarily existed when I graduated college, right? Could I have better aligned myself, maybe got to this position a little bit faster? I think I'll start on the other end and go with Noah, and talk a little bit about, you came from Wisconsin or Wisconsin. You luckily are here now. But how does someone, best grow in your career, and what advice would you give some of the students or some of the young professionals that are in the room? Where did you come from? How did you get there? How did you get here? And what maybe changes would you have made on the journey?
Okay, now that's a great question. It's a tough question. Let me first talk about why I came here specifically. So I actually grew up in Wisconsin. So I had a chance to move back there in 2008, had family in the area and so on. So in some sense, that was a comfortable life, right? But you get to a point in life where you're not just happy being comfortable. You want a new challenge. And so I was lucky enough to get an opportunity to come down here to the university. We were kind of a growing department, growing university in a growing city, which was really attractive. Right? So it was kind of looking for new opportunities, which you never know when they're gonna happen. So I guess that's one thing, is to always be on the lookout for new opportunities, and don't settle. Don't be complacent or settle in to where you are. Step back a little bit further. I mean, I think you have to, in some sense, you have to really be straightforward with yourself. What are you good at? What do you enjoy? What is your passion? I spent a little bit of time. I was, an analyst on Wall Street for a short time. That was not my game. I was much happier instead. Working on my own pace, thinking of broader issues, and so academics was where I ended up.
Awesome. Jeff, you.
That's one of my favorite questions, and I actually was having this conversation with one of my daughters last night, as I've got 3 college-age kids. I started my career early on advising companies as an investment banker on Wall Street, all within the media, telecom, technology universe. All high growth, small growing businesses. Unfortunately, it was part of the world as the Schroders and Thomas Weisels and Robbie Stevens all got swallowed up by the big boys. I ended up at Salomon Brothers, which was a great place to be, but I lost my love of working with the small entrepreneurial companies and the growth businesses. And I realized pretty early on that advising companies and working with the companies, the smaller companies, I got to be more active with the C-suite. And the advice that I was giving them made a difference versus when I was working with large-scale clients. And I recognized when it was time for me to make that move out of the Wall Street world, where do I go? And what I recognized for me was the love of working with a growth business and really rolling up my sleeves and helping an entrepreneur really implement and drive their strategy was what I love to do. So what I tell my kids is find what you love to do in that first 10 years of your career, because you're gonna have to work hard. Whether it's on Wall Street, a finance company, a tech company, a PR company, a sports team, being a data analyst, right? Find that passion. Enjoy what you're doing, because you're gonna work hard. And stick with it, and you'll find within that world what specifically you seem to migrate toward. And that's what'll drive you. Find it and follow it.
I find that interesting, and being that you're coming from Connecticut, you came from Wisconsin, the other gentleman sitting in your seat came from LA. One of the things that I always like to say is I think that Miami-Dade County is the true quintessential American dream. The American dream is people coming from all over the world, all different places, different race, creeds, colors, and coming somewhere, being entrepreneurial and being successful. I think that we have seen that. At the DDA, we really look to support those entrepreneurs. We look to support the American dream, whether that's through keeping the streets clean, public safety, all of the different events. Miami is the only place in America that has every single major sport in the world. F1 in Miami is a completely different thing than F1 in Las Vegas. No disrespect to Las Vegas. But we live in a really special moment and special opportunity in Miami's lifespan, but really also too in America, and to be able to be lucky enough to be in Miami and live in Miami. And so Noah, maybe you could throw a little icing on top of that on how special this moment is economically as a city, county in America.
Yeah, there's a few times in history where you see, cities take off, right? I mean, Silicon Valley being the classic one, 1970s into the 80s. New York earlier on. There's only, these are few and far between. You can count cases like this, with a few fingers. Miami is in the middle of one of those right now. I think what we saw during the pandemic, that was kind of the kickstart. But it hasn't slowed down. We've seen a little bit of slowing in population, but with the economic activity is still continuing. So I think we're kind of in the midst of that wave, and everything you're doing, people in this room are doing can help continue that. And again, I think it's almost unprecedented.
I think that what I take away from that is that now that I've gotten a little bit of gray hair on my chin, one of the things that you always hear when people are investing in, whether that's a company or whether that is a stock or ETF or whatever that might be, they always wish that whenever they bought more, right? And I think that for the young people in the audience, the only thing I would change about where I am right now is I wish I was younger in this moment to be able to take advantage of what is going on in Miami. So for the students that stayed in the room and have made it to this far, I commend you and give you a pat on the back for doing that, but I also truly encourage you to take advantage of this amazing moment in the greatest economy in the United States, in the greatest economy, which is the United States, in the world, and take advantage of that moment. I don't see Francisco because I guess he went outside to get some coffee. Oh, there he is. I guess you're giving me all the time. I guess the next thing I would say, are there any questions at all from anyone? There we go.
My name is Kevin Comer. I've lived in Florida my entire life, and for my entire life, Miami and South Florida have had a reputation for being a somewhat corrupt political and business environment. I may be the classic example of that is all the things that went into building the Miami Marlins Stadium about 15 years ago. So I have two related questions. One, is that still true? Is that sort of corruption still a problem in doing business here? And second, to the extent that it is, how can that be halted so that Miami can be a more attractive place for international business investment?
And I feel like that question is directed at me, and you put me in a rock and a hard place, and now the camera guy turns right at me. Let me try to say this in the most politically correct way. Yes, but as I encouraged people to vote, one of the most exciting things is that Jeff is bringing an experience, ideas, and a life from Connecticut and New York down here. Noah is bringing an experience and a life from Wisconsin down here, and they are part of our ecosystem. Right. I think that all of the investors that are in this room probably believe in diversification. I think diversification is almost one of those universal rules. And so the diversity in ideas, the diversity in thought, the improvements that I would argue Miami needs to make in mass transit already exist in New York. Maybe some of those ideas or the individuals and the groups of people being able to vote on those things and move them forward will happen. I'm excited about the new businesses. I'm excited about the additional capital. I think as the capital, all I think that you can really ask for is that great ideas find the appropriate capital to make that happen. Right. I feel blessed to be in a role that is quasi-governmental. Coming from the private sector, I believe that the private sector is actually in the driver's seat. I think that some of the excitement around the new administration is being able to put more private sector people in that driver's seat, but I encourage them to continue to drive, hopefully, in the right direction. And so I think that someone who's been down here, and we have seen Miami, we forget that we are in the deepest, deepest part of the South. Show me a place in the South that has mass transit. Nowhere. Hasn't been something that's really been pushed in the South. So maybe the change in demographics, ideas, the capital, right? The Bright Line is a move in the right direction. Now it is a luxury train, so maybe not for necessarily everyone, but still a train that moves people and gets people to where they need to be. And that movement is a flow of money. And so I think, to wind up, the answer to your question is that I think that the change is in every single person in this room being active. One of the, and then I can, move it on to this gentleman's questions. But I think one of the beautiful things in Miami, but also as a double-edged sword, because nothing is ever really truly good or bad, is that there is so much fun, sun, beauty, opportunity, and things to do. And as you know, this always has not been the most civically engaged community. So that leads the opportunity for politicians to maybe not be held to the fire. So I can urge you all to join different groups, to be a part of the Economic Club, to come to the DDA meetings, and to vote on things that will hopefully move that forward.
Great.
It's funny, I have the same question, but in the context of branding. So a lot of times, I've been here 5 years, I love Miami. A lot of times I work with people and they're like, why do you live in Miami? I'm like, oh, it's great, you don't understand. They're like, oh, you must be doing some sketchy stuff. So from a branding context, do you guys think about investing in the idea that Miami is not as deeply associated with some of these themes of corruption and shenanigans?
I'll jump in. The conversation didn't even enter our dialogue when we were talking about moving down. Yeah, for us it was very much taking a look at the landscape and looking at a combination of regulatory, a combination of administration, and really where the flow of the world of finance was moving. And heck, who doesn't want to live in South Florida? It's a heck of a lot nicer than New York right now.
I think Noah mentioned a little bit about the pandemic. I think the pandemic made a lot of people think about quality of life. And no matter how much money you have, that it became increasingly important. I think that Miami offers you a great opportunity to have a quality of life. All of us could get in our car, and maybe relative to traffic, we could all go put our feet in the sand in about 15 or 20 minutes, right? Maybe a little bit longer. Maybe I'm being happy about the traffic. But I think that, again, that's a collective thing that we all have to work on. I was really excited that Jeff talked about the talent, because sometimes I do get the pushback that, oh, the talent that we're looking for our business is maybe not necessarily here in Miami. You see a lot more of executives moving here, and they're still having conference calls with their talent across the rest of the world, right? Those types of perception things, they take time to change, but they change with entrepreneurs like Jeff and his team taking the risk and taking the step and changing it. As Opalvest, and I know that they will be successful, their success will show the rest of companies that are like that you can do it here. As other companies and the gentleman that moved here from LA, that all is turning that wheel slowly in that direction. And so I think that the branding and image of Miami is just a place that's fun in the sun, will change. And that is already, this industry would not be here. The billions of dollars of investment at MyX and that trading floor wouldn't happen if there's not a trading floor in Las Vegas.
Let me just say a little bit on that, a little bit more parochial. University of Miami used to be known as Suntan U, right? But now we're a member of the AAU, which is the elite research universities in the United States, across a number of different programs. We're in the top 20 in the country. We're still small, relative to a lot of other schools. So to think about broader talent, FIU is important, MDC, where we are right now, is important for training that. I think, but again, this takes time. It takes time for these perceptions to change and for people to realize the amount of talent that there is here in Miami.
And there's two current funds for the people that are looking to employ folks. There's a $20 million fund and a $10 million fund, all to support individuals getting the jobs that are here. One is called Miami Tech Works, and I forget the other one, but they are both Googleable and easy to look up. And so people are putting their money where their mouth is to make the change, but we all are a part of that change that we do want to see here in Miami. And I think that is it. I really appreciate Jeff and Noah for you guys having this conversation with me. Thank you for the entire Economic Club, for all of its board members. We look forward to doing this again next year, and thank you for everyone who listened to this conversation.
Thanks, MJ.